Ode on a Grecian Urn by John Keats. Thou still unravished bride of quietness, thou foster child of silence and slow time, sylvan historian who canst thus express a flowery tale more sweetly than our rhyme. What leaf-fringed legend haunts about thy shape, of deities or mortals or of both, in Tempe or the dales of Arcady? What men or gods are these? What maidens loath? What mad pursuit? What struggle to escape? What pipes and timbrels? What wild ecstasy? Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Therefore ye soft pipes play on, not to the sensual ear, but more endeared pipe to the spirit ditties of no tone. Fair youth beneath the trees, thou canst not leave thy song, nor ever can those trees be bare. Bold lover, never, never canst thou kiss, though winning near the goal. Yet do not grieve, she cannot fade. Though thou hast not thy bliss, forever wilt thou love, and she be fair. Ah, happy, happy boughs, that cannot shed your leaves, nor ever bid the spring adieu, and happy melodist, unwearied, forever piping songs forever new. More happy love, more happy, happy love, forever warm and still to be enjoyed, forever panting and forever young, all breathing human passion far above, that leaves a heart high, sorrowful and cloyed, a burning forehead and a parching tongue. Who are these coming to the sacrifice? To what green altar, O mysterious priest, leadest thou that heifer lowing at the skies, and all her silken flanks with garlands dressed? What little town by river or seashore, or mountain built with peaceful citadel, is emptied of this folk this pious morn? And little town, thy streets forevermore will silent be, and not a soul to tell why thou art desolate, can e'er return. O Attic shape, fair attitude with breed of marble men and maidens overwrought, with forest branches and the trodden weed, thou silent form dost tease us out of thought, as doth eternity, cold pastoral. When old age shall this generation waste, thou shalt remain, in midst of other woe than ours, a friend to man, to whom thou sayest, beauty is truth, truth beauty. That is all ye know on earth, and all ye need to know.
Hi, welcome to Litpoetry. John Keats is now one of the most celebrated poets in the English language, and this particular poem is one of his most popular poems. During his own career, however, Keats laboured for recognition and lacked the renown of poets like William Wordsworth. Ode on a Grecian Urn was composed during an astounding surge of inspiration in the spring of 1819. It was during this short period that Keats also wrote his other odes. These other odes from late 1819 include Ode on Indolence, Ode on Melancholy, Ode to a Nightingale, and Ode to Psyche. Keats is generally classified as a second-generation romantic poet, which also includes such writers as Lord Byron and Percy Bysshe Shelley. Romanticism is known for its belief in the power of the imagination, in the importance placed on nature, in having a political outlook as a writer and the prophetic role of poetry in society. While Keats was not a very popular poet in his lifetime, a victim of his lower social class in a status-conscious society, his reputation grew after his death in 1821 at the very young age of 25 from tuberculosis. Perhaps what's most interesting about this poem, historically speaking, is the very deliberate attempt by the poet to re-engage with the ancient past in the hope of learning from it. This was part of an overall resurgence in the interest in history at the time, and in particular an interest in artefacts from classical antiquity. Form. As the title suggests, this poem is an ode. The ode is a form of verse dating back to ancient Greece. This, of course, makes Keats' decision to use an ode form really the perfect match in terms of matching it to the object which he's writing about, an ancient Greek urn. The poem itself is made up of 5 stanzas, each with 10 lines. In its traditional form, odes were celebratory songs, yet this ode is clearly different in its outlook. Unlike the more traditional Homeric or Pindaric versions of this form, Keats developed his odes because he felt that the other established forms of his era failed to give him the literary canvas he required to go deeply into the subject matter at hand. The popular sonnet form, for example, was all the rage at the time, but Keats felt that it lacked the scope he craved to match his vision. The ode form, on the other hand, allowed for an expansive examination of the urn, and also allowed for the flowering of intricate doubts and questions. Metre. The beating heart of this poem is a finely wrought iambic pentameter. Moreover, the heartbeat-like rhythm is well controlled throughout, establishing a refinement of craft that deliberately reflects the craftsmanship that went into making the urn itself. The language is precise and intricate. Line 8 is an example of perfect iambic pentameter. What men or gods are these? What maidens loath? Just listen to how naturally beautiful those sounds are in the line. It's like honey on your tongue. There are, of course, some deliberate variations of the iambic pentameter at key moments in the poem. This includes a number of spondees, such as in Heard Melodies, or in the line, Bold lover, never never canst thou kiss. To be sure, the spondees are used for memorable effect, but I'll leave it up to you to think about what those particular effects actually might be. Rhyme scheme. The rhyme scheme keeps a generally consistent shape throughout Ode on a Grecian Urn. Each stanza can be divided into 2 parts in terms of its rhymes. They all begin with AB, AB in the first 4 lines, though the subsequent 6 lines of the stanzas differ as follows. Stanzas 1 and 5 go AB, AB, CD, ED, CE. Stanza 2, AB, AB, CD, EC, ED. And stanzas 3 and 4 go AB, AB, DC, EC, DE. Whew. This general division into 4 lines and 6 lines can be interpreted as a textual representation of the actual shape of a Greek urn, which is fascinating. Overall, one could argue that the rhyming in general is a key element that the poem uses to cast a spell over the reader. The musicality of the trapped images dance in the air, partly thanks to the mesmerizing use of rhymes. Poetic devices, apostrophe and personification. Apostrophe is present from the start. The speaker addresses the urn as thou throughout the poem. The inanimate object is put under scrutiny and it is probed for answers. The use of apostrophe, however, draws attention to the one-way nature of the conversation. Apart from the certitude of the final two lines of a poem, the rest of the lines are full of direct, unanswered, and indeed unanswerable questions. Apostrophe helps the reader to ascertain the mood of the speaker within this exchange. Bold lover, for example, presents a moment in which the speaker views the urn's figures as possessing a certain kind of strength by virtue of their permanent stillness. By the end, however, the poet calls the urn cold pastoral, and this shows a shift in mood, with the speaker becoming annoyed that the urn cannot give back a satisfactory answer. Ode on a Grecian Urn is a famous example of ekphrasis, but its approach is markedly different from many other types of ekphrasis, in that it seeks not only to describe and meditate on the object, but also to bring that actual object to life through personification. The urn is thus treated as an agent in a conversation with the speaker, despite the literal impossibility of the urn having any actual agency. Not only is the urn personified on a general level, but its individual pitches are too. The speaker directly addresses the piper, the lovers, and the mysterious priest as real living people rather than as static images. As such, the speaker illustrates an urge to learn about human life and to cross the historical chasm between the ancient and the present time. Assonance. The artistry of Keats' use of assonance in this poem is something to behold. Through assonance, he goes a long way to mirroring the urn's aesthetic beauty with the subtle musicality of his word choices. Almost every line in the poem contains assonance, sustaining this sense of craftsmanship. Notable examples in stanza 1 are the way the vowel sounds of bride and the I in quietness literally marry the two together, as with the A sound in Sylvan Historian. In line 14 in stanza 2, the speaker uses assonance majestically, piped to the spirit ditties of no tone. Here the vowel sounds in the fourth, first and fifth words evoke an idea of revelry and frivolous fun dancing on the page. No tone changes the vowel sound to remind the reader that these are unheard melodies. They are frozen within the inanimate object of the urn. Lines 41 to 46 amplify the assonance in order to reflect the urn's artificiality, in line with the speaker's frustration at its inability to provide an answer to its mysteries. O, overwrought, forest, trodden, thou, form, dost, out, thought, doth, cold, pastoral, and old create a chain of O sounds that make the constructed quality of the poem more evident, which represents the constructed quality of the urn itself as a work of art. Consonance. Much like assonance, consonance is employed by Keats to linguistically reflect the beauty of the urn itself. An excellent illustration of consonance occurs in lines 11 to 14. The T sounds in sweet and sweeter are picked up by soft and spirit ditties, creating an atmosphere of playful musicality that stretches across 4 lines. This mirrors the literal content, which depicts a pipe-playing musician on the urn's surface. This is poetry of the highest order, gentle and full of spontaneity. In the 4th stanza, the speaker examines the haunting silence of the religious procession. They wonder which town is now emptied of this folk. The entire stanza uses the repetition of T sounds to give this emptiness a haunting, melodic vibe. When the human mouth makes a T sound, the attack of the consonant dies away instantly as the tongue returns to its natural position. The sound thus hints at the emptiness being discussed. Theme: human mortality and eternity. Ode on a Grecian Urn is a multi-layered reflection on mortality that both celebrates and dreads the transitory nature of life. The illustrations on the urn point to an ancient world that has disappeared. And yet, as paintings on the surface of the urn itself, these pictures also draw out aspects of eternity. The urn is a paradox. On the one hand, its dioramas speak of effervescent escapades in life, which are gloriously frozen in time, a kind of eternal utopia. On the other hand, however, everything and everyone in the urn's world is now dead, buried or destroyed. Within this uncomfortable tension, the speaker tries to make sense of mortality without ever being able to come to a satisfactory resolution. The speaker projects their anxiety and frustrations onto the urn, and at different points, the pictures on the urn seem to come alive. Some early stanzas are full of commendations for the scenes that are so blissful, carefree, and full of Epicurean delight. We read about lovers at play, pipe-playing musicians, and the abundance of the natural world, all of which creates a happy feeling in the speaker. These lush scenes are a kind of victory of life over death, a vivid celebration. Indeed, the speaker admires the lovers who are forever panting and forever young, and notes that the tree beneath which they sit will never be bare. But then comes the gradual shift into unease. After all, these images are ultimately just a mirage in the desert. Moreover, the figures are not gods, but ghosts left to haunt the corridors of time. They only seem alive because they are rendered so well, performing actions that speak of vitality and humanity, yet are not themselves full of life. Furthermore, though the maiden depicted cannot fade, neither can her lover have thy bliss. That is, he can never kiss her in his frozen state. This reinforces the sense of existential frustration the speaker is himself experiencing in not having his questions adequately answered. Mortality is thus presented not simply as an end, but also as a distinct part of life. The speaker experiences an epiphany over the course of the poem. Arguably, this is marked when the speaker introduces their own mortality in line 8 of stanza 3. All breathing human passion far above. This moment brings to mind the speaker's own breath settling on the object of contemplation. To breathe is to be alive, and to be reminded, in this case, of inevitable death. From this point onwards, the poem becomes less celebratory and more anxious. The busy scenes on the urn seem to speak of an emptiness intimately linked to mortality. By the poem's end, the urn turns cold to the speaker and offers no lasting comfort to his meditation on mortality. To begin with, the luminous vitality of the urn seems to breathe life into dead things, and the stillness of the images makes their lives immortal. Eventually, though, reality descends, and the urn makes mortality all the more present and indisputable. Theme: the connections between beauty, art, and truth. Ode on a Grecian Urn is a complex poem which explores the intimate connections between art, beauty, and truth. It is through the experience of beauty, according to the speaker, that people start to draw nearer to truth in our world. In this relationship, art acts as a vehicle through which human beings can attain this beauty and glimpse the universal truths in the world that surround them. While mystery lies at the centre of the poem's meditations on human existence, it is able to argue that good art offers humankind an essential, if temporary, way to represent and sense this mystery, even if the experience is somewhat fleeting or difficult to sustain. The poem's memorable and oft-quoted ending is important in trying to comprehend the speaker's views on art, beauty, and truth, and solidifies the lines that have come before. The poem's final proclamation that beauty is truth, truth beauty, shows that in the context of this poem, beauty and truth truly are one and the same. The speaker explores and experiences firsthand the aesthetic appeal of the urn throughout the poem, and makes connections between the seductive beauty of the object and the poet's own writing about the object, which is equally sensual and delicately crafted. Though the poem struggles to pin down the precise relationship between art, beauty and truth, its language works hard to be beautiful and to open doorways to understanding, deep, profound doorways that human beings can walk through to get a better understanding of the world around them. As such, one could argue that it is art's role to create this beauty, which then leads us towards moments of truth and insight that cannot be otherwise obtained. Here, the speaker feels a connection, which is experienced intuitively, which is very much a hallmark of the poetic zeitgeist of the Romantic period. The poem, of course, offers no easy answer to the question of the relationship between art, beauty and truth, but it does argue very passionately that these three are tangled together like a knot that we can nobly at least attempt to unravel. Furthermore, it may be that the strength of this relationship is partly dependent on its mystery. Perhaps all ye need to know then suggests people need to be comfortable in not knowing everything. There are, in other words, limits to our understanding, and the humble mind that can accept this is in a healthy state of being. The last lines, taken out of context, might suggest that this is a poem in praise of beauty, yet the speaker's position is much more complex and nuanced. The frozen spectacle of the urn's scenes point towards humankind's anxious desire to represent itself in the face of its ultimate mortality and bring a sense of order to bear on the insecurities of human existence. Whether or not people can achieve lasting beauty through art, the speaker feels deeply the importance of at least trying. The urn's scenes, yes, are imprisoned forever. The melodies of the pipes cannot be heard, the trees cannot shed their leaves, and the people walking can never arrive at their ceremony. Indeed, everything is paused in eternity, yet ironically the pipes do play on. And if you listen hard enough, perhaps the entrapped music in the world around you will be revealed to you. Thank you.